Hey there, Chris Denny with Attention to Detail. I'd like to talk about preferential elements. It's a topic no one ever talks about when you're talking about improving reports and reducing mistakes and errors in reports, in proposals, in contracts, and some other documents, but mostly it comes up around reports and proposals. Things that have kind of a fixed format and are done in relatively the same way from time to time or week to week or month to month or whatever the schedule is for those. Preferential elements are elements of a document that are the way they are because someone needs them to be that way or just because they like it that way. And this happens a lot, and the way it comes up usually is that someone who has been doing let's stay on reports. Someone who has been doing a report for months or years or whatever, they leave or they take another role in the company or whatever, and then someone else takes over completing that report. And when they complete it, the manager or coworkers or whoever they send it to sends it back and says, this isn't right, redo. And they're a little obscure about their guidance on why it's wrong. And if they, if they're asked why, if they're forced to explain something, it's that the titles aren't right, or a certain chart needs to be there, or a paragraph needs to be written a certain way, something like that. And they might know why, but sometimes they just know that the people they have to send it to need it to be done a certain way, and it could be because they're going to take the data, the information, and put it into a certain spreadsheet, so it needs to be in a certain format. Or they like for titles to be descriptive or to not be descriptive, or they just want to know that this heading is always going to say Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, whatever it is. There are a million different ways this can happen, but they are elements that need to be the way they are, kind of because it's always been that way, a little bit. So here's the thing, it's hard to root those out. So when I'm working on something, I kind of address that first in a lot of cases, because it happens so often and it's a little bit harder to identify. And then the best way to resolve it, the very best way to resolve it, is to have a sit-down, face-to-face meeting where you go through that report or proposal or document or whatever, page by page, element by element, and you say, this is like this, and this is like this, and why not, and why, because, okay, like this, just do this format, great. You basically make a template, but you do it with the person who is requiring it, who has the preferential element requirements, and you go through element by element and you put it together. Now, I've seen this done, actually a client of mine did it, and I recommend it a lot now because it's a great idea. We have so many remote working situations now that you can do this on screen. So just pull the document up, scroll through it, and in fact you can record it, which is great because then you can always go back and review it. So record it, go through the document. It needs to be like this. Why? Because of this, or I don't know, it just has to be that way. That's fine. That can be an answer. That's okay. But make sure you're addressing these preferential elements. Don't get frustrated about it. Just address it. Make the template that you need and move on. So I hope this is helpful, but always keep those preferential elements in mind.